going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing, liking this video, sharing, and all that good stuff that keeps YouTube pushing contents like this to your feed, and you will never be bored again, I promise. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, why I chose it over its competition, and how I have it set up for my EDC. We're also going to be discussing the different options that you have in terms of aftermarket support if you're into Gucciing your EDC. But before we do that, a word from our sponsor. Me. If you find value in the content I provide and want to support the channel, there's a simple way to do so that won't cost you a dime. Just take a moment, like right now, to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on future uploads. Also, throughout this video, if there's something I mention or address that resonates with you, feel free to hit the like button and leave a comment down below. By doing these things, you're not only showing your support, but also sending a sacrificial offering up to the YouTube algorithm gods to let them know that you appreciate content like mine and want to see more, not just from my channel, but from other creators in this niche as well. Please understand that your small gestures go a long way in helping us grow and continue to bring you valuable content. Your support is appreciated, and it motivates us to keep improving and delivering the best content possible. With that out of the way, let's get into this, shall we? So how did I end up with the Springfield Hellcat Pro as my preferred EDC? I was in the market for a very compact firearm that could carry a lot of rounds. One of the options that I had at the time was the SIG P365. I had a chance to shoot it at the range before buying it. I didn't really like it. Plus, the very first batch that they released was having serious problems. Like, mine just kept jamming for whatever reason. And then a friend of mine bought his, which was running just fine. Got to spend some time with it. It just wasn't for me. It was very small in my hand and I just couldn't. It was smaller than what I was looking for. Let's just put it that way. The original SIG P365. So what I did instead is I got the Walther PPS. It wasn't too big, too wide, and too heavy to carry. The only downside to it was the 7-round mag, and then the other one, which was, I believe, 6 rounds. So that was the only issue that I had, and I've carried this firearm for about 2.5 years. I had no issues with it, but I was still in the market to find something in this size. I didn't want to go anywhere smaller. This thing next to the P365 is huge. Not a big fan of the Smith & Wesson either, although it shot just great. The original Hellcat was okay, but I was running into another issue that I was trying to move away from with the PPS. I can only get a foregrip with the mag inserted. I was looking for something that would give me a foregrip, and I know you'll jump in the comment section and then say, well, with the P365 being so modular, you can get a foregrip from anybody. I wasn't into it. SIG just wasn't for me. I don't have a problem with SIGs. I actually like the P320. It's actually a very good shooting firearm, provided that you don't keep one in the head. Anyways, the Hellcat was cool, but still had the issue of being able to get a foregrip. And then Springfield released the Hellcat Pro. The Hellcat Pro for me really covered a lot of the things that I wanted. Number one, I wanted to keep my everyday carry within this side. And these two, side by side, they're pretty much the same length, the same width. They're pretty much identical in a lot of ways. But what the Hellcat Pro did very well, even with that the mag inserted, I could still get a full grip on it. And another thing that I was looking for was the slight finger grooves that they've added here on the grip. It really made me feel like I was still carrying this thing with just extra rounds. So for me, that was a no-brainer. I jumped right in and purchased the Hellcat Pro. The ergos felt very familiar to what I was already used to for the past 2 years with the PPS. The controls are in the right place. I've talked about it in my EDC video. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, I recommend you check that out. I love where they've placed the slide stop, slide release. It's tucked away, but stand proud enough for you to never miss it. And the mag release is also great because I don't even have to break my grip to actually get to it. The serrations work just well. If you want to rack it from the back, you can pull right there. It's an overall built firearm. I've rarely had an actual EDC that I enjoyed shooting. The PPS for me was just a little annoying because I had to reload constantly because it's just 7 rounds, the other 6 rounds in the smaller mag. That's 13 rounds. That's not even a standard full mag of 15, right? So imagine going to the range and having to go through all that cycle of reloading, shooting, reloading, shooting. That was just annoying. Although it's a fun gun to shoot, and believe me or not, it actually feels less snappy than the PDP, but we're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into it. The cool thing about the Hellcat is it gives me 15 round. At the time when I bought it, they shipped with 2 mags, but right now, I don't know if Springfield is still running that special, but if you get one right now, you're gonna get 5 mags. What I ended up doing was just adding an extra mag so that I'm close enough to a full box of 9 mils. And when I go to the range, all 3 mags loaded, you have about 45 rounds, or if you put one in the head every time, then you get 48. So that was the cool thing, where I could go shoot a lot before I have to reload again. That made it fun. They have other models. If you're not comfortable with just having this trigger safety here, they do offer models with the thumb safety. You just have to look for them. The U-Dot. At first, I thought it was kind of gimmicky, but then I got a chance to try it at the range. It's like just dropping a dime in like a glass of water. As long as you're able to line this up, have it sit right here in that little white U-notch right there, and provided you don't disrupt your sights as you pull on that trigger, you should be able to hit your targets, man. 10, 15, 20, 25 yards, you should be good to go. At the time of shooting this, I have about 800 rounds through it, and I know some of y'all will probably ask, like, why would you trust a firearm that you haven't tested thoroughly up to 1,000 rounds? We all have our acceptable amount of rounds through a firearm before we can trust it with our life. For firearms that I'm not really sure of, I will push it to 1,000 rounds. If you're Gucci from day one, 500 will do it for me. And this thing got to 800 rounds, never had a single malfunction, and it pretty much ate everything I've had through it. Steel case, fancy ammo, self-defense. I actually run the SIG V-Crowns, 124 grains. I think I've had them for quite some time now, so I'll have to switch them up, but it fed just fine, not a single issue. This thing just works great. If you want to get into all the specs and stuff, I'll have a spec sheet roll up at some point here on the screen so you can go over all of that, or watch other videos that really go into the nitty-gritty. The trigger has gotten just a touch lighter than when I first got it. What I really like about it is the take-up is actually fairly short. For a concealed carry firearm. From here, straight to the wall, a little bit of creep, and brakes. And the reset, a touch long, but it's there. Now, as you may have noticed already, on this firearm, I'm running the Holosun 507K X2 red dot. This version comes with the multiple reticle. So you have the 32 MOA ring and the 2 MOA dots. You can use them combined or separately, meaning you can just have the dot or the ring and the dot combined. So those are your choices there. It's a very well built optic and very robust. My rule of thumb is this: if it's good for Aaron Cowan, it's good enough for me. So no drop test on this one. Aaron did that for us, so we're good. And I trust him. So if he says it's good, it's good. Now, mounting this red dot on the Hellcat directly is not possible. This slide comes pre-cut for the Shield RMSC footprint. This footprint has 4 recoil buses, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. I don't know why Holosun would adapt the footprint, but only does it halfway through. The 507K and I believe the 407K and probably my EPS as well, I can't recall, but potentially, does not have the holes in the back. It only has the 2 holes at the front where those recoil buses is actually lock onto, which means you're gonna need a plate. So I got a plate from DPP. I didn't wanna spend too much money on a plate. All right, and that thing is honestly getting kind of old. So thanks for the echelon. So back to this. I got the plate from DPP on Amazon, forgot the price. I'll probably put it up on the screen as well. So while I was waiting on the plate, I decided to remove the cover plate that comes on top of the slide. However, I don't know who was working on this specific firearm. I don't know if it was a person or a machine. Both screws were blue Loctite, but the right screw will not move at all. It didn't matter what I tried, what I did. I ended up stripping the screw, and I had to go find a friend of mine who has a whole bunch of, cutting tools and stuff like that. We basically just had to like cut through that slide and pull the screw out. I was so frustrated by it that I looked at the two recoil buses at the back, and I was just like, dude, since we're cutting things, you might as well just go ahead and shave those off too, which it did. So from there, I tried to mount the optic directly to the slide, and it still wouldn't go. It just wouldn't, like the front of it wouldn't just sit flush. It didn't matter how hard I was pushing down on it. It just would not move. Then I got the plate, I was able to mount it. So the moral of the story here is, if you pick up one of these, just get a plate. Don't try to shave anything off, and hopefully you don't get one of those tight screws that just makes the whole experience even worse for you, and you got to find professional tools to cut through the cover and the screws and all that stuff. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is just my personal opinion. I don't really use the 32 MOA reticle much. For me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense because of how small this window is. But if you're new to red dot, you might see the benefits in it because it will make, I guess, acquiring the dots or finding the dots a lot easier for you. But if you've been around red dots and shooting with red dots, it shouldn't be a problem to find the 2 MOA dots. As long as your presentation is consistent every time, you should be able to find that. But it's a feature that you'll have to pay extra for. If you're pretty good with finding just a single dot, I would recommend probably going with the 507K. But the problem with the 507K is that I think it's only 6 MOA, so that's something that you'll have to decide for yourself. Me personally, I have an astigmatism with my left eye, so 2 MOA is really kind of like the sweet spot. It blooms just a little bit, but it works just well for me. And this is the red dot version. I've been suggested to try the green. Apparently green helps with, astigmatism and stuff. I do have a green dot somewhere in here. I mean, I tried it. It's a green dot from Gotar. I couldn't really tell the difference. I don't know if it's just an emitter issue in terms of like quality, maybe because it's a budget optic, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's a real thing. It may work for you, okay, but I don't know if it resolves the blooming issue that I have when looking with my left eye, because I'm left eye dominant, so I tend to present with a strong bias towards my left eye. But if reticles and stuff are not an issue, and if money is also not an issue, I would probably recommend going with the EPS carry. You'll pay a little more for it, but what you get is one less thing to carry on you. Because this thing can scoop dirt. I'm kidding, I don't walk around with cotton swabs in my pockets, but whenever I get home, I just give it a quick clean and then that's it. Because there's lint, there's dust, there's all kind of things that happen under your shirt when walking around or carrying. You may have to clean this a lot in comparison to an enclosed emitter, which you still will have to clean because the window will get dirty, but it's not gonna be as hard. And the other advantage that you get is the deck height. This is the EPS, not the EPS carry. The EPS carry will actually suit this one better than the EPS. So I will recommend going with the EPS carry on the Hellcat Pro or any micro compact firearm. And then if you have a full size or regular size firearm or whatever, the EPS is also a very good choice. And the advantage that you get between the two is the very low deck height. These are regular iron sights that I'm running on this, and I don't even have to change the sights because they clear the deck here just fine, and I can easily co-witness. So I'd say take that into consideration. All right, so let's talk aftermarket support. I have to admit that I was kind of surprised at how the aftermarket picked up this firearm. I guess it speaks to its popularity as well. I know like the P365 took it and ran with it, kind of like Glock versus all other guns, right? But it's got a pretty solid aftermarket support. There's Apex that's making triggers and other parts for it. Tyrant CNC that's also doing some cool stuff. If you want to see all the mods that you can do to this firearm, again, I will recommend checking out my friend friend Mike over at 360 Tactical Solutions. A few days ago, he actually posted a video with the new Apex trigger for the Hellcat Pro. So I recommend you check that out. He actually worked on a project with Floyds where they ported his slide and barrel. I mean, that thing looks factory. It's so nice and well done. So there are options out there for this firearm if you are into Gucciing your firearm or just want to extract a little more performance out of this platform. There are options for it. So and I'm happy to see that, because I know eventually I'm gonna get bored of this and I will want to switch things up. DPM has picked up on it as well. You have guide rods and spring systems that you can get. I mean, there are options out there. It's very well supported, and again, I think it speaks to its track record so far. It's rather short, but it's been doing well. Outside of the fact that people say that it's kind of snappy or snappier than its competition, but reliability and everything else is just great. Now, to conceal this firearm, I run it in a crucial concealment holster. I don't have the model for it, but you can just look it up online, you'll find it. It's a pretty minimalistic holster, but it does the job. As mentioned in my EDC video, if you haven't checked it out, please make sure you do. I go into a lot more details on what to expect when you pick up this holster. Now, the most important part, how has this performed so far at the range for me? It's a fun gun to shoot, and I think the reason why this works for me is the size of the grip. I usually test my grip on handguns by just running my thumb here and see how much space I have left between the tip of my finger and my chicken thigh over here. This one doesn't leave much space, which means I'm almost wrapping this whole thing off with just one hand. So when I add my support hand on here, this thing is not going anywhere. And even if it is, it goes right back because of what they've done with the beaver tail, which digs into the web of my hand right here and makes it controllable. That's why I'm not complaining about the snappiness of this thing. There's a lot that's actually helping in controlling that, let alone the texturing that they've used here and there. At the range, man, this thing runs. I remember when FN first released the 509, a lot of people were selling them or getting rid of them because the polymer was just, I guess, squishy. And they didn't like that. It felt like a cheap gun. I have yet to hear somebody say that about the Hellcat, because in order for them to even be able to pull this off, have 15 rounds in such a slim magazine, they have to shave some things, either off of the magazine size or the grip housing, I guess, where the magazine will go. And they've done that here with the grip, but not a lot of people talk about it. You can actually squeeze these frames because the walls are so thin to keep this compact and slim. Why am I talking about it now? Because at the range, sometimes when reloading or whatever, or just dry firing before I can start shooting, I can grip this thing so tight that it even flexes, right? And you can try that. If you own one of these, go try that. Now, it doesn't make it a bad firearm. It's just something that I noticed as I was shooting. But with a mag inserted, you won't feel much of it. Without the mag, oh yeah, this is a stress ball. That was one of the takeaways, and I figured, hey, I'll bring that up in case you go pick one of these up and, oh man, this is cheaply made. Well, you're not gonna have a problem. Insert a mag in there and start shooting, you won't even notice it. That about does it for me today. I think it's a pretty good platform to get into. If you're not a big fan of SIG, not a big fan of Smith & Wesson, I think this is your next best choice. I'm not saying that it comes third in the lineup, but I would say in terms of popularity and track record, I'll even throw in the Glock. Oh my goodness, the 43 and 43X. Sorry, Glock fanboys. I can't believe I left y'all out. Yeah, so you have options. Get some time behind these guns. I think most of the options that you will find these days are now available for rentals at your local range. So you can go ahead and shoot them all side by side. Shoot them for yourself, see what works for you, and go with that. This was the best EDC I want it for me. Go find what works for you. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I do hope that you learned or picked up on something that was mentioned here today. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe for more contents like this. Until then, you guys stay safe, enjoy your weekend, and God bless. I'm out.